I never believed in spiritual matters. I am an accountant. My life revolves around numbers, logical facts, and things that can be proven. But what happened in this house? I have no formula to explain it. It all started on November 14th, exactly 3 weeks after my mother passed away from lung cancer. Mom's house was an old 72nd style architecture, located in a desolate suburb where the sound of traffic was always drowned out by the wind whistling through the window cracks. Lily, my 5-year-old daughter, and I spent the whole Sunday cleaning the attic. The air up there was thick, stifling, a mix of rotting wood and old dust. "Daddy, look at this." Lily's clear voice pulled me out of my thoughts. She was crouching down beside an old oak chest, clutching something brownish-gray in her hands. It was a teddy bear, but it wasn't like the soft, adorable teddy bears sold in supermarkets now. This bear, there was something wrong with it. It was about 40 centimeters tall, its fur made of rough wool matted in patches. One eye was a shiny black button. The other dangled by a single thin red thread, swaying every time Lily moved. "His name is Mr. Cuddles," Lily exclaimed, her voice full of excitement. Grandma said this was her best friend when she was little. I frowned. I had never seen this bear before, and Mom had never mentioned it. I walked over, intending to tell her to put it down because it looked too filthy. But as I reached out to take the bear, a scent struck my nose. The smell of mothballs. Pungent and harsh to the point I could taste the bitterness in my throat. "Lily, give it to Daddy. It's very dirty. Might be full of fleas," I said, my voice stern. But when I snatched the bear from Lily's hands, I froze. It was heavy. Much heavier than the appearance of an old stuffed animal. The feeling of holding it was not like holding cotton or rags, but like holding a loose chunk of meat. That weight dragged my hand down oddly, and its oversized head slumped down, making that pitch-black button eye seem to stare right into my chest. A chill ran down my spine, even though the attic was sweltering hot. "Please, Daddy," Lily whimpered, eyes tearing up. "Grandma left it for me. I promise I'll be good." I looked at my daughter, then down at Mr. Cuddles. Maybe I was just being oversensitive due to grief. Mom just died. Lily needs something to connect with her. "All right," I sighed, handing the bear back to her. "But we have to wash it clean first." That was my first mistake. I should have thrown it into the fireplace right then. When we went downstairs, I glanced at the wall clock. 5:45 p.m. and winter darkness was starting to swallow the garden. I didn't notice that the bear's head, which had been slumped over Lily's shoulder, now seemed to have rotated slightly by 30 degrees, pointing straight at the back of my neck. I tried wiping Mr. Cuddles with a damp cloth and fabric deodorizer spray, but that pungent and harsh mothball smell seemed to have soaked deep into every strand of rotten wool. It wouldn't go away. Even so, Lily still insisted on sleeping with it. I waited until her breathing was steady, falling deep into sleep, then gently removed the bear from her arms. I didn't want my child inhaling that toxic chemical smell all night. I placed Mr. Cuddles upright on the wicker chair in the corner, facing the bed. I remember this detail very clearly. I adjusted its heavy head to look out the window, to avoid Lily getting startled if she woke up in the middle of the night and saw those soulless eyes staring at her. When I turned off the light and closed Lily's door, the microwave clock in the kitchen showed 8:30 p.m. That night, my sleep was fitful. I started awake at 3:15 a.m. My throat was parched, feeling like I had swallowed sand. I dragged myself out of bed, intending to go to the kitchen for water. The whole house was immersed in absolute silence, only the refrigerator downstairs humming. Passing Lily's room, out of a father's habit, I glanced inside. Her door was still ajar, just as I had left it. But something was wrong. The yellow streetlight cast through the window blinds, shining on the wicker chair in the corner. The chair was empty. My heart skipped a beat. I pushed the door open gently and stepped in. The cold wooden floor beneath my bare feet made me shiver. My eyes darted around the room and stopped right at my feet. Mr. Cuddles was lying there. He wasn't lying at the foot of the wicker chair. He was lying face down, right at the threshold, nearly 3 meters from the wicker chair. And what made my stomach churn was not its position, but its posture. The bear lay face down, both arms stretched straight forward as if crawling, and its oversized head. It was looking up, pointing straight towards my bedroom door across the hall. I stood rooted to the spot. My logical brain tried to come up with an explanation. Lily got up to use the bathroom and dropped it here. Or she sleepwalked. I bent down to pick the bear up. It was cold. cold to the point of stinging my hand, as if it had just been taken out of a freezer, not lying in a heated room all night. When I picked it up, the loose button eye hit the hard plastic shell inside, creating a small click, echoing in the silent space. I looked towards the bed. Lily was still lying motionless, blanket pulled up to her chest, her position unchanged from earlier. If she had woken up and gone to the door, why were the sheets and pillows so smooth? I swallowed hard, trying to dispel the irrational unease igniting in my stomach. I put the bear back on the wicker chair. This time I pressed it deep into the seat cushion to ensure it couldn't slide down by itself again. Just gravity, I whispered, though I didn't believe it myself. I returned to my room and locked the deadbolts, an action I had never taken in the 5 years living here. The next 2 days passed in a fog of vague unease. I tried to convince myself that night's incident was just because I was too tired, but the smell in the house began to change, and that was something I could not ignore. The pungent mothball smell initially had disappeared. In its place was a heartbreakingly familiar scent, lavender. It was my mother's signature perfume, the Yardley London brand she had used for 40 years. The first time I smelled it passing through the living room, I almost burst into tears. But as soon as I took a deep breath to seek some comfort, my stomach tightened. Mixed with that fragrant floral scent was another taste. A sickly, sweet, fishy smell, but very light. Like the smell of a piece of raw meat forgotten behind the fridge for days, starting to leak fluid and turning grayish blue. The combination of the sweet floral scent and the smell of rot created a thick atmosphere, making me always feel nauseous, as if a thin layer of fat was coating my tongue every time I breathed. Saturday afternoon, I was sitting working in the dining room when I heard a murmur coming from Lily's room. It was 4:15 p.m. I tiptoed closer to the girl's door. The door was slightly ajar. Lily was sitting cross-legged on the floor, her back to me. Opposite her, leaning against the bed footboard, was Mr. Cuddles. She was talking, not the aimless monologue of playing house, but a real conversation. There were silences, nods, and the tilting of the head to listen. "But Daddy will be very sad," Lily whispered, her voice hesitant. Silence for about 5 seconds. Then she nodded, her voice becoming firmer. "Yes, I know. Daddy doesn't know how to take care. Daddy did it all wrong." My scalp tingled. I pushed the door open hard and stepped in. "Lily? Who are you talking to?" Lily startled, spinning around. Her eyes were wide, but not from fear, but irritation. Just for a moment, but I swear I saw an adult's annoyance in those childish eyes. "I'm just playing," Lily replied, her voice flat. I looked over at Mr. Cuddles. It still sat there, limp and harmless. But that loose button eye seemed to have turned a bit, no longer looking at Lily, but pointing straight at me, and its mouth sewn with crooked black thread. And did it just smirk? No, surely it was the light. I stepped forward, trying to keep my voice calm. "What did you say just now about me doing something wrong?" Lily hugged the bear tightly to her chest, burying her face in its foul fur. "It's nothing, Daddy," she said, her voice muffled by the stuffing. Then she looked up at me, her black eyes boring deep into my soul. "Grandma, Mr. Cuddles said Daddy wouldn't understand. Adults never understand." I stood still. Adults never understand. That was exactly my mother's catchphrase whenever she and I argued about how I lived my life. I backed out of the room, closing the door. My hands shook so much I couldn't turn the doorknob the first time. That night, I decided to reinstall the old baby monitor that I had kept in storage since Lily was 3. I needed to know what was happening in that room when I wasn't there. I placed the baby monitor on the bedside table. It was an old Motorola model with a grainy black and white screen, occasionally emitting a crackling sound due to unstable signal. Although the image was blurry, but at least I could see the faint silhouette of Lily's bed and the wicker chair in the corner. I tossed and turned until past midnight, eyes glued to that tiny screen. Every time a streak of static ran across, my heart tightened, but nothing happened. Only Lily's steady breathing coming through the speaker, sounding like distant ocean waves. Sleep finally defeated me around 1 a.m. I was startled awake by a strange sound coming from the monitor. Not a cry, nor a scream. It was a wet sound, like someone smacking their lips after drinking water. I reached out and grabbed the screen. The digital clock in the corner blinked. 2:47 a.m. The image on the screen flickered for a moment, then stabilized. Lily was lying on her side, curled up in the blanket. and lying right next to her, close to her face, was Mr. Cuddles. I remembered clearly that before sleep, I had put the bear on the wicker chair. Was it Lily pulling it into bed again? I was about to sigh in relief and turn it off when a small movement on the screen made my blood run cold. The bear's left arm, the limp, inanimate stuffed arm, began to move. It didn't fall due to gravity. It was lifting up. Its movement was slow, jerky, step by step, like a puppet being clumsily pulled by strings. The short, clumsy arm slowly reached out, hovering over my sleeping daughter's face. I held my breath, eyes bulging as if wanting to pierce through the screen. Please be a technical glitch. Please be a hallucination. But no. That arm lowered gently, and it made a move that nearly made me scream. It flipped the stuffed hand palm up, gently pressing the back of the hand against Lily's forehead. That was not a random action. That was how my mother used to do it every night when she was alive. She never used her palm to check temperature, and she always used the back of her hand, because she said the skin there was more sensitive. Through the grainy black and white screen, I saw the bear's oversized head tilt down close to Lily's face, as if listening to her breathing. The horror that invaded me was not the fear of being attacked, but the violation. Something dead touching my daughter, pretending to be her loving grandmother. I sprang up, not even putting on slippers, bolted out of the room, and ran thundering towards Lily's room. I flung the door open and flipped the light switch. Fluorescent light flooded the room. Lily was still sleeping soundly, breathing steadily. And Mr. Cuddles? It lay face down next to Lily. Left arm still extended, resting loosely on the pillow, just centimeters from her forehead. It lay motionless, just a harmless pile of old wool fabric. But as I stepped closer to snatch the bear, I felt a stream of cold air radiating from it. And on Lily's forehead, right where the bear's hand had touched, her skin was turning red, breaking out in tiny rash bumps like an allergic reaction. I picked the bear up, my hands trembling violently. This time, I swear I heard a soft sigh, escaping from inside its stuffed chest. A sigh full of disappointment. The next morning, I locked Mr. Cuddles in the closet, piling old blankets on top. I needed a little peace to think. But that peace was shattered right at the breakfast table. Lily sat opposite me, stirring her bowl of cereal sluggishly. She looked pale, and faint dark circles had begun to appear under her eyes. Something that shouldn't exist on a 5-year-old child. Eat up, you'll be late for school, I urged, trying to sip some bitter black coffee to chase away the sleepiness. Lily pushed the cereal bowl away. Too sweet. Too much sugar isn't good, Dad. I froze, the coffee cup halting in midair. Lily is a sugar addict. She could eat candy instead of rice if I allowed it. What's wrong with you today? I asked, trying to keep my voice normal. Lily looked up at me. Her eyes, they lacked the usual innocence. She looked at me scrutinizingly, a cold look coming from someone experienced. Are you planning to buy pizza again tonight? She asked, her voice even. I haven't decided. How do you know? I had actually thought about it because I was too tired to cook. Lily sighed, a sigh full of disappointment, exactly like the sound I heard from the bear last night. Grandma says you're lazy. Eating greasy pizza is bad for your heart. Don't you remember what Grandpa died of? The cup in my hand slipped, hitting the table surface, creating a shrill clatter. A hot coffee splashed all over my hands, but I felt no pain. My father-in-law died of a heart attack 10 years before Lily was born. My mother and I argued a lot about the family's diet after that event. But Lily couldn't know that. I had never told her. Who told you that? My voice trembled. Lily pointed her finger at the ceiling, towards her bedroom. Mr. Cuddles said so. He said, you don't know how to take care of me. You only care about work. The air in the kitchen suddenly turned cold, even though the heater was set to 25 degrees. The smell of lavender and rotting meat wafted around again, even though the bear was locked up on the second floor. Fear turned into suppressed rage. I dragged Lily up to change her clothes for school. I wanted to get her out of this house as fast as possible. Stand still, I snapped as Lily kept squirming. I pulled up her pajama sleeve, and I froze dead. On my daughter's pale, tender upper arm were 3 pitch-black bruises. They were not random impact marks. They were finger indentations. But their size was very strange. Small, short, but the pressure must have been very strong to create bruises deep enough to cause such hematoma. The spacing between the fingers was also very wide, unlike a human hand. What is this? Where did you fall? I screamed, panic starting to invade. Lily looked down at her arm, indifferent. Last night I was going to the bathroom, but Mr. Cuddles held me back. She answered lightly. He said the hallway was very dark, dangerous. He held on too tight because he was afraid I'd fall. It's a teddy bear, Lily! It can't hold your hand! I yelled, making Lily startle and back away. I didn't wait for her answer. I rushed to the second floor, tearing open the closet door. Mr. Cuddles was still lying under the pile of blankets, but its head had pulled out, and that pitch-black button eye was looking straight at me the moment I opened the door. I grabbed the bear by the scruff. A cold, slimy feeling like touching dead fish skin transmitted straight to my hand. I ran downstairs, ignoring Lily, crying and begging behind me. I rushed to the backyard, opening the lid of the large blue plastic trash can. A foul smell rose from the household trash, but it was nothing compared to the smell radiating from the bear in my hand right now. Get lost! I hissed through my teeth and threw the bear hard inside. It fell with a thud to the bottom. Bop! Sounding like a sandbag hitting the ground, not cotton. I saw it lying on its back amidst eggshells and plastic bags, arms spread wide, eyes looking straight up at the gray sky. I slammed the trash lid shut and took 2 heavy bricks to weigh it down. It's done, I panted, my hand still feeling the disgusting sticky sensation. It's over. But as I turned to go inside to take Lily to school, I heard a sound from behind. Thump, thump. The sound of banging from inside the trash can, like someone knocking on the plastic lid from below. I didn't dare turn back. I snatched Lily up into the car and sped off. I picked Lily up from school and deliberately lingered at the park, then took her to dinner at a fried chicken shop. I did everything to delay having to return to that house. Deep down, I reassured myself that everything was over. The bear was lying at the bottom of the trash can, pinned down by 2 bricks and a pile of household waste. We arrived home at 6:15 p.m. It was pitch black. The house was silent like a tomb in the night. I told Lily to go upstairs to change, while I went straight to the kitchen to pour a glass of cold water. My throat had been parched all day from stress. I reached out and flipped the kitchen light switch. Cold white LED light flooded the room. The glass of water in my hand fell to the floor, shattering. Sitting majestically, right in the middle of the dining table, where I had left my coffee unfinished this morning, was Mr. Cuddles. It wasn't lying down, it was sitting. Back straight, hands placed neatly on the table like a diner waiting to be served. But its appearance was terrible. Its brownish gray wool fur was covered in wet coffee grounds. Crushed eggshells and bright red tomato sauce stuck together like clotted blood. A piece of rotten banana peel draped across its shoulder like a sickly scarf. The stench wafted up my nose, stronger than ever. The smell of decomposing trash mixed with the strong scent of lavender perfume created a grotesque taste that made my stomach cramp. On the verge of vomiting, I backed away, my back hitting the refrigerator. Impossible, I whispered, my voice breaking. I dashed to the back door, flung it open, and rushed to the trash can. The 2 bricks were still in their original position on the lid, not moved a single millimeter. I knocked them off and opened the lid. Inside was the black trash bag I threw away this morning. I tore the trash bag open. Eggshells, coffee grounds, milk cartons, everything was still there. Only the bear was missing. The house door locked tight, windows closed, no signs of forced entry. How? How could an inanimate teddy bear escape from a brick-weighted trash can, walk through walls, and climb onto the dining table? I returned to the kitchen, gripping a meat cleaver pulled from the rack. But when I walked in, Mr. Cuddles was still sitting there, motionless. The only thing was, its head seemed to have tilted a little more to the left, that mocking head tilt my mother used to do whenever she caught me lying. I didn't dare touch the bear anymore. I used ice tongs to clamp tight on its scruff, and threw it into the storage closet under the stairs, then locked the door. I took heavy-duty duct tape and taped crisscross over the door cracks. I needed to be sane. I needed to wash away this sticky, filthy feeling. After soothing Lily to sleep, she slept very quickly, unusually so. I went into the bathroom. I locked the door, a newly formed habit, and turned the shower faucet to the max. Hot water poured over my body, soothing the trembling of my muscles. Steam rose thickly, fogging up the mirror. I closed my eyes, letting the water flow over my face. Thump. Thump. The sound was drowned out by the water, but I still heard it. Scratch. 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 This time it was clearer. It was the sound of fingernails. Hard fingernails scratching heavily on painted wood. It was coming from right on the other side of the bathroom door. I turned off the water. The space fell into silence, only the sound of water dripping from the shower head. Scratch. Scratch. The scratching became frantic, rapid, sounding like a wild beast trying to dig its way into a den. And the position of the scratching, it was low, only at my knee level. "Lily," I called, my voice trembling. "Do you need to use the bathroom?" The scratching stopped abruptly. Absolute silence. Then a voice spoke up. Not a child's voice. It was deep, nasally, as if coming from a mouth stuffed with cotton, but the tone was firm, steely. "Open the door. I need to see your face when I discipline you." It was my mother's voice, but distorted, deep, and full of hatred. My heart pounded against my chest, as if wanting to burst through my ribs. I hurriedly wrapped a towel, hands trembling as I grabbed the shower curtain rod as a weapon. I took a deep breath, turned the latch, and yanked the door open. Steam rushed out into the cold hallway. The hallway was empty. There was no one. The closet door under the stairs at the end of the hall was still taped shut. I exhaled, intending to step out to check when my foot kicked something soft. I bent down to look. Mr. Cuddles was sitting right on the bath mat, close to the bathroom door edge. Tape was still stuck to it in patches, proving it had torn through the seal to escape. And this time, its button eye was no longer pitch black. Inside the threading hole of that plastic button, I saw a cloudy white spot. I leaned in closer to look. That was not plastic. Beneath the clear plastic layer of the button was a real human eye. A cloudy cataract eye with red blood veins streaked around it. It blinked. That blink was the drop that made the cup overflow. The fear inside me exploded into pure madness. I didn't scream. My throat had already seized up. I kicked the bear away. It slid across the wooden floor, hitting the wall with a heavy, wet thud. I rushed into the bedroom, rummaged through the desk drawer, and pulled out a yellow-handled box cutter. The sharp blade slid out with a dry click-click sound. I was no longer a scared father. I was a beast cornered. I ran back to the bear, pinning my knee on its chest to hold it down. The feeling under my knee was disgusting. It was soft, squishy, as if inside it was filled with wriggling maggots rather than cotton. "What the hell are you?" I roared, hand swinging the knife to slash a long line from its neck to its belly. The old rotten wool fabric tore open easily, but the sound it made was not tearing fabric. It sounded like flesh being torn apart, a wet, lingering ripping sound. A horrific stench exploded from the incision, pungent, to the point I had to hold my breath to not vomit right there. It was the smell of decomposing corpse, concentrated and compressed in a closed space for too long. I used the knife tip to push the fabric aside. No white cotton, no styrofoam beads. Inside, the bear's belly was packed tight with hair, tangled clumps of hair, matted together by a dark brown fluid. But the most terrible thing was their color, salt and pepper, withered and dry. I recognized that hair color. It was my mother's hair in her final days lying in the hospital bed. I tremblingly used the knife tip to hook deep into that tangled mess of hair and pulled out an object hidden in the middle. It was a piece of pale yellow silk fabric, embroidered with lotus borders. My hand dropped the knife. I backed away, slipped, and fell sitting on the floor. It was a piece cut from the shroud we had dressed Mom in before closing the coffin lid. I remember clearly because I adjusted her collar with my own hands. Why? Why is it here? My mother was cremated with those clothes already. Pop. All the lights in the house went out at the same time. Darkness descended, thick and stifling, as if someone had just thrown a black blanket over my head. The space was terrifyingly silent. Only the sound of my heart pounding in my chest, and the stench from the disemboweled bear corpse spreading in the air. Then I heard it. Thump. Drag. Thump. Drag. Footsteps coming from the floor above. Heavy. Slow. The sound of a foot stomping on the floor, followed by the dragging sound of a paralyzed or injured leg. That was my mother's gait after her stroke 2 years ago. The footsteps moved to the top of the stairs and started coming down. The old wooden stairs groaned under the invisible weight. Creak. Creak. I scrambled backwards towards the entrance, eyes staring wildly into the black void at the foot of the stairs. "Mom?" I whispered, voice broken. The footsteps stopped in the middle of the stairs. A freezing cold draft blew through the hallway, carrying a scent of lavender so strong it was suffocating. From the darkness, a voice rang out. It no longer came from the bear. It echoed from everywhere, from the ceiling, from the walls, crawling right into my eardrums. The voice was wet, gurgling like someone with phlegm blocking their throat. I told you, don't waste things. I heard bones cracking, like someone twisting their body. You tore my house. Now I must take your skin to patch it. A loud bam rang out from upstairs. Lily's room door had just slammed shut. Lily! I screamed, fear for myself vanishing, replaced by absolute terror for my daughter. I didn't need light anymore. I sprang up, charging straight into the darkness, towards the stairs where that thing stood. I rushed up the stairs like a madman, piercing through the dense darkness, running past the landing, where I had just heard the footsteps stop. A blast of air, cold as dry ice, slapped straight into my face. It wasn't just cold, it had texture, slimy and thick, like passing through a jelly fog. Right by my ear, a piercing screech rang out, sounding like fingernails scratching a blackboard, but the pitch was so high, it made my teeth numb. You can't run. I ignored it all, kicking Lily's door open. The room was pitch dark, only dimly lit by streetlights casting in. Lily was standing on the bed, arms spread wide, head tilted back, staring at the ceiling. She was smiling, a twisted, stiff smile that didn't belong to her face. Daddy, Grandma says she's cold, Lily said, her voice shrill but emotionless. She wants to borrow my blanket. Or should she borrow my skin? I didn't say a word, rushed to grab the blanket, wrapped Lily tight, and hoisted her onto my shoulder. Lily began screaming, thrashing wildly. Her strength was absurdly great, small fists pounding on my back, painful as sledgehammers. Let me go, you unfilial son! I haven't finished talking. It was my mother's voice coming from my daughter's mouth. I gritted my teeth, sprinting down the stairs. Passing the living room, I saw the mangled corpse of Mr. Cuddles on the floor, convulsing. The clumps of hair inside its belly were wriggling, reaching out like worms, trying to crawl towards us. I kicked the front door open and rushed out into the black night. Cold wind whipped my face, but I only felt hot sweat pouring down the back of my neck. I threw Lily into the car's back seat, buckling the seatbelt as fast as possible, while she was still growling and spitting in my face. I jumped into the driver's seat, hand shaking as I inserted the key. Start. Please start. The car roared to life. I floored the gas, reversing out of the garage, slamming into the roadside trash can, but I didn't care. As the car sped away, I glanced at the rearview mirror. In the red glow of the taillights, I saw the front door of the house wide open. A hulking black shadow stood at the threshold. It had no clear shape, but I saw something reflecting the red light. A giant button eye. I drove like a madman for 6 hours straight, until the gas tank ran dry at a rest stop 2 states away. Lily had fallen asleep some time ago, returning to being a normal, innocent, and exhausted child. 3 months have passed since that terrifying night. We moved to an apartment on the 15th floor in a coastal city, over 800 kilometers away from the old house. I changed my phone number, cut off contact with old neighbors, and didn't even dare go back there to get my things. I hired a professional cleaning company to handle the house and sold it off cheaply in a hurry. Lily seemed to remember nothing of that night. She returned to being happy, lively, though occasionally she would be startled by loud noises. I started psychotherapy and took sedatives to induce sleep. I thought I had escaped. I thought the geographical distance and Lily's silence were signs of peace. But this morning, that illusion shattered. When I woke up, my head splitting from the sleeping pills, I felt something hard lying under my cheek. I lifted my head and picked it up. Lying lonely on my pristine white pillow was a black button. The button was old, scratched, with a single thin red thread still stuck in the hole. My blood froze. I spun around to Lily's bed. She was already up, sitting, brushing her hair at the vanity table. "Lily?" I called, voice choked. Lily turned around. She smiled at me, a sweet smile. But her eyes looked right through my shoulder, staring into the empty space behind my back. "Good morning, Daddy," Lily said. "Did you sleep well?" Before I could answer, she turned back to the mirror, continuing to brush her hair. And then I heard her whisper, very faintly, but in the quiet morning room, it sounded like thunder. "Yes, Grandma, I put it there. You said Daddy would like the souvenir, right?" I looked down at the button in my hand. heat started to heat up, and faintly in the air, the smell of lavender mixed with rotting meat began to creep into every corner of this pristine new room. If you are reading this, and you find an old teddy bear in your house, a bear with a strange smell and heavier than usual, don't be curious. Don't cut it open. Don't try to fix it. Burn it immediately before it realizes you are looking at it.